Crude oil has crashed decently well today because basically Trump and Iran seemingly are coming to some sort of agreement. Now, obviously, I'm here to give you kind of like my take of what I think is going on because I do think a lot of traders are going to get wrecked. But before I get into this, make sure you're subscribed, turn on your bell notifications. Everything I say here is very time sensitive. I've been in crypto since 2016. I make these short and sweet videos for you guys to sort of just digest and kind of help save you guys some money, right? So obviously, the main topic of discussion this whole past month or so, even longer, has been this whole conflict, if you want to call it that, between the United States and Iran, the Strait of Hormuz being shut down. And there's just a lot of back and forth. And in my personal opinion, it's just blatant market manipulation. And I don't want to go into all the details and I don't want to get all political, all that kind of stuff. I just want to say kind of my thoughts and what I kind of the pattern that I've been noticing, right? So Trump seems to have this pain point of the price of the Brent crude oil, which is around $115, give or take. And the way that this typically plays out is every single Monday week, there's always some kind of good news, right? There's a good news to kind of relieve the markets. And then there's always just this huge announcement, strong arm kind of escalation every Friday after the market closes. That's usually where, we get a sell-off on crypto because that's realistically the only thing that people have to sell at that time, right? Because all the markets are closed. You kind of have Trump doing whatever he wants to try to get done, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be the case. I don't think that this is going the way the United States planned. That's just my opinion, right? And then, as soon as there's massive pain in the markets, obviously futures always tend to open pretty red overnight. And that's not always a indication of how the stock market's going to basically behave. But when you look at the other countries' currencies or their stock markets, usually there's a massive crash on Sunday night when they open up for futures. And then we see some sort of language kind of being posted right as soon as market opens or a little bit beforehand to kind of pump the markets because Trump is very sensitive to basically the stock market and the price of oil. So I would not put it past him to basically just be buying time with this whole 5-day ceasefire. Initially, it was this whole 24-hour ultimatum. Iran basically called their bluff yet again. They've been basically doing every single thing that they've said that they've been doing, right? I don't think that Iran is playing games. I think that I don't know, just call me crazy. I think that this is not going the way that the United States planned, and it's quite frankly crippling the entire economy across the world, right? Because it's affecting everybody. And so I would not be surprised to see basically this whole 5-day period, it's coincidentally, obviously this was made yesterday, right? So what's 5 days from Monday? Friday. And obviously the troops are still on their way, right? And there's a lot of rumors that we're gonna have boots on the ground, all that kind of stuff. And so it would be not even surprising, right? To see that something kind of happens over the weekend when it's just after the 5 days. There are some negotiations kind of being underway. I think there's been a list of demands by Iran, which is kind of crazy considering that Trump had a no, he didn't want to accept any terms. It was basically his terms or basically conflict, right? And yeah, it seems they're starting to kind of play ball. And I do hope for just the sake of the world, because I don't like chaos. I don't think anybody watching this is going to like chaos. I think that, we prefer peace, right? Unfortunately, these kind of conflicts are very powerful for the powers that be, the governments, all that kind of stuff. But it really cripples the economy. A lot of people are hurting. There's a lot of stress going on around the world. And frankly, I think a lot of traders are also getting chopped up too, because we see all this massive sell-offs with, particular stocks or traders that get chopped up with leverage, especially with oil and Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. So if you're somebody that takes on leverage, I would not be, betting on the horse that the markets are just going to rally. Now, I do think that crypto looks a little bit attractive in my opinion right now, but that's obviously going to change over the week. And yeah, like I said, if you've been shorting basically on a Thursday, you pretty much did pretty well as long as you're obviously making longs around right before Sunday. It's just it's so poetic, right? It happens every single time for the last month. It's markets pump Monday, markets dump over the weekend. That's usually how it happens. So again, if you're somebody who's trying to take on leverage and taking on all these bets, I'm using these opportunities, as I've said, obviously I'm kind of stepping away from just staring at the charts. I'm still accumulating spot positions, specifically Bitcoin, Hyperliquid, Solana, and Sui. Those are really the only cryptos that I've been touching for various reasons that I can get into if you guys want me to make a separate video on that. But yeah, my attention is just not really on the markets. as soon as this whole like conflict is over, which I hope is soon, then I'll start paying more attention. And I think that the market's going to rip. But I think short term, all this choppy action, like it's just, you could have gone on vacation essentially, and like we'd probably be in the same range in terms of like Bitcoin or crypto. Yeah. So with that being said, just to kind of summarize what I think is going to maybe be the case is I think that Trump is buying time. I think that the markets are going to be kind of chill until like Friday. I would not put it past them to escalate this over the weekend. Obviously, that lines up with the troops getting in there. And in my opinion, like boots on the ground would not be a good scenario. I don't think that that would be any way feasible. So let's hope that that doesn't happen. I hope that the markets pump. I hope that cooler heads will prevail, and we'll see where that goes. But with that being said, stay safe, guys. Trade safe. Do not make stupid decisions. And as always, take care.